Hello everyone. I'm going to do a soap making video for my friends, actually specifically requested, but I know that my friend Angel will really appreciate it too. Soap making is one of those things that anyone can learn how to do, but there's some technical things that you can learn about, but you don't have to know them in order to be successful at soap making. There are some basics you do have to know. I'm the kind of person who thinks I really know something if I know how it works, not just that it does work. So first thing, one of my favorite books is The Soap Maker's Companion. It's got pretty much all the information you'll need. Talks to you about a little bit the history of soap making, why soap works, how to make soap step by step with clear illustrations. It has lots of really great basic recipes as well as more complicated recipes on how to make glycerin soap, translucent soap, marbled soap, all sorts of techniques. Plus there's a whole section in the back talking about different soap ingredients that you could use and what their purpose would be, and as well as a troubleshooting guide later on, like my soap did this, why did it do this, how can I fix it? So this is a really comprehensive guide. I really like this book. And so I would encourage anyone who wants to do soap making on their own to have a copy of it, which by the way, this is not my copy, this is Dad's copy. Thanks, Dad. Anyway, first thing you really have to know about soap is that you need to be careful while making it. Soap making is a process of turning fat using a strong alkaline substance into soap through the process of our new buzzword, saponification. So what that does is it unchains the fat and recreates it by a chemical reaction into something that actually makes water wetter by unchaining dirt molecules, so that you can get those things off your, all those dirty buggies off your hands. So soap makes your water work wetter, which is really cool. And the other word again, saponification, we'll use it a lot. The process of turning a fat into soap by using an alkaline substance. Our alkaline substance is lye. You can use food grade lye. You can order that on Amazon, it's pretty easy. You can use the lye you get at the hardware store that unclogs your pipes. I tend not to use that because I don't know about the quality, and since the skin is our largest organ, I'm really conscious. You know, by the time I'm making my own soap, I'm really thinking about what I'm putting in that soap. So, you know, I use organic oils and I use the food grade lye, because why would I use garbage soap ingredients to make my own soap? I could buy that at the store. So, food grade lye, interesting to note. Food grade lye is food grade because that's how you make pretzels. They are boiled in a very light solution of lye water, and that's what makes their shiny texture on the outside. So I use the food grade lye because it's really easy to measure, pretty inexpensive, and I know it's a good quality. You'll use you have to dilute the lye. You don't just add lye to the fat, so you'll use your lye water mixture. And then the other half of soap, that's one half, is the lye water mixture, which is alkaline. And remember that lye is a caustic substance, caustic meaning not toxic, but burning. You've got your pH system, and on the far side of one side is your acidic, so you're thinking things like battery acid, right? And then something in the middle that would be more acidic would be something like vinegar. In the middle is water, on the other side is alkaline, so you think of something like baking soda or salt, and on the far side is something like lye. Either side, the farther away from the middle you get, the more burning will happen to your skin, the more toxic it can be to you. So lye has a purpose, but lye is very burnable. So if you get some on your hand, it'll feel like an itchy, burny sensation. The easiest way to fix that is to have vinegar always on hand. That's kind of your first safety tip, is to have vinegar on hand while you're doing your soap, so that you can counteract that by if you get that extreme alkaline on there, then you can counteract it by putting vinegar on that and bringing the pH balance back together. So, oh, do we have someone here? Here.
It's Jim.
Grandpa Jim's helping us with our video.
Kentucky Bushman. Kentucky Bushman coming out of the woods.
Good thing they're practicing archery out there. Good thing he didn't get shot. He's losing my train of thought. So then second half of our soap is oils, or fats. Back, think of Laura Ingalls Wilder and when Almanzo's mom was making soap, or Laura's mom was making soap. They were using maybe lard or tallow to make their soap, because that was the copious amounts of fat that they had on hand from dealing with animals. But today, most of us will use plant-based oils, things like palm oil, coconut oil, olive oil. Those are like your 3 most common ingredients. And there are reasons to use those oils. Excuse me. There are reasons to use other oils. Like if I want castor oil or shea butter. Shea butter can make an extra moisturizing soap. So I might add shea butter if I'm giving soap to someone who has chronically dry skin as an extra moisturizing soap bar. Coconut oil can be drying, but it makes a great base for a soap. But coconut oil as the only base for my soap could be drying to the skin, as well as too soft of a soap. Cocoa butter is a really hard butter, so it'll add a hardness to your soap, which makes your soap last longer. That's actually my favorite recipe, has a high amount of cocoa butter in it. So there's different reasons to use different things. Palm oil and coconut oil are inexpensive, easy to get a hold of, and make a great base for soap. You don't want to just use those harder oils. That's why we'll use something like an olive oil. In my world, I want to be accurate, but I don't want to be so precise that I'm killing myself. So I'll measure things out by weight, which is great. But I also, I want to be, if it calls for 3.2 ounces, if I have 3.3, I'm not sweating it. If I don't get every last drop out of my measuring cup, I'm not going to kill myself over it. So getting most of it close to accurate is good. I've never had a batch of soap go bad because I had a little bit too much of something or not quite scraped out enough cup. Also, when it comes to accuracy, you're going to think of your substitutions, because I'm pretty famous for not having all the correct amounts of things on hand.
I didn't know you were famous.
Famous in my circle. So, like say I didn't have palm oil, I might use all coconut oil. Or whoops, I didn't have enough olive oil like I thought I did, so I'll use avocado oil instead. The kind of rule of thumb for that is when you're substituting something, use a like oil. So if I am substituting for coconut oil because I ran out, I'm going to use something like palm oil, a harder oil that's solid at room temperature instead, or maybe cocoa butter or something like that. I'm not going to substitute olive oil, my liquid oil, for my solid oil. Same goes, like say your recipe calls for wheat germ. Well, I don't have wheat germ, and wheat germ is expensive to buy, wheat germ oil. So I'll use the same amount of castor oil because I happen to have that on hand. Or I'll just use all olive oil. So like oils or fats for like oils and fats. Because your recipe can really be as simple as palm oil, coconut oil, and olive oil. Your recipes that you'll find in a book like this, or if you find online, what they will be is the correct ratio of lye water to fats. So that means that in order to saponify all the fats in your soap, you'll need a certain amount of lye. So if you have too much fat to lye, you'll have fat left over in your soap. What that means is that if you don't have enough lye to all your fats, then your lye will not saponify all of the fat, and you'll have leftover fat, which in these particular recipes, these are actually called super fatted recipes. It's intentionally not enough lye, so that we have about a 4-5% fat left over. What that means is that we have a moisturizing bar of soap. If we had the correct amount, like to make a very cleansing bar of soap, we would have more lye to soap, a more even ratio, and that way the lye would eat up all of the fat, so we have a really, really deep cleaning bar of soap. That's great for something like laundry soap, but not so great for something like your hands. So depending on your purpose, you might find that your ratios are different. What you'll find if you have too much lye to your fat is that you'll have lye left over, either by a powdery substance on the bottom or pockets of lye that haven't gotten mixed up. And there's a couple different reasons that that can happen. I'm not going to talk about it right now. But if you have lye left over, depending on how it's left over in your soap, your batch of soap will be ruined. I haven't actually ever ruined a batch of soap yet. So if you just kind of follow the process, trust the process, keep your measurements accurate, and stir well enough, keep it warm like you're supposed to, it's all going to be okay. So let's get to soap making. So this here is the recipe we're going to make while we're making soap. It's called white chocolate mousse. It's one of my favorites. It has a high amount of cocoa butter, which makes it smell a little bit like chocolate, which is kind of fun. In fact, last time we made this recipe, we did a marbled soap. Angel and I did peppermint. Sarah and Angel just did no scent at all. They just put some cocoa powder in the half of their marble, and oh my goodness, it is a lovely bar of soap. So anyhow, I want to just point out a couple things to you. This here is we're going to do things by weight. It's the best way to have good and accurate measurements, so make sure you've got a scale. Sodium hydroxide is the name for lye. We'll have 187.5 grams. This will make a 5-pound batch of soap, so you're going to want to use something like a shoebox or your 2 molds. I know a lot of you girls have those molds, or enough of a cupcake size mold, and I'll show you some different molds in a few minutes. You're going to mix that 187.5 grams of hydroxide in with our water, and I'll show you how to do that. And again, accurate. We're not going to freak out if this is like 3.2 ounces, okay? But we need it to be really close, okay? 11 ounces of olive oil, 8 ounces of jojoba. Again, I don't have jojoba oil, so I'll use something else. I'll probably just use an equivalent amount of olive, or if I happen to have some castor oil, I'll put castor oil in there. Or maybe instead of doing all olive, I'll add some avocado oil in here instead. A pound of coconut oil, 8 ounces of cocoa butter, which I ordered just to make sure I had enough on hand. 8 ounces of palm oil. Again, I ordered that because I can't find that in the store easily, so I ordered that from Amazon. 12 grams of fruit seed extract. I don't use this. It's used as a preservative in these recipes. A lot of people use it as a antibacterial, but I've read some kind of controversial things about it, that it really doesn't work as a antibacterial, and that also, like, it doesn't have an effective preservative effect. If you really are concerned about preservatives, I would add rosemary essential oil. That would be a preservative. It would help your soap last longer, but honestly, I have never really had a bar of soap go bad on me unless it was filled with perishable type things, like you were making a strawberry or a milk soap. Then I really just wouldn't concern myself about this. Most people are going to use that soap up fast. I mean, we're a family of 7. We use our soap up really fast. And then here's 7 teaspoons of pure essential oil and fragrance oil. Along with this are additives like oatmeal, flours, or so something that's like a exfoliant. So I use oatmeal or cornmeal. You could use walnut if you really wanted something to scrub, or cornmeal if you really want something to scrub with. And then flowers, because I always put flowers or some kind of herb in my soaps. I think it makes it pretty. But just like this, it's a nice bar of soap too. It's a pretty hard bar of soap, so it's not the kind that melts very much. So adding something like a colorant, you could add that here too. So, 7 teaspoons of an essential oil. I never use fragrance oils, and I don't use my expensive Young Living oils. I tend to use a high quality but not expensive essential oil, say from Amazon or something. Again, you don't actually have to have a fragrance oil. This says optional here, and it says that on purpose. This bar of soap will smell nice regardless. If I wanted to marble it, or even if I just wanted it to look like a brownie bar, I could add the cocoa butter or cocoa powder to color it. This is my favorite bar of soap, so we'll make this up for this tutorial. Thing that you need to think about when you're making a bar of soap, because you need your fats, you need your hydroxide, sodium hydroxide or lye, but how you want your bar of soap to feel, right? So I know, like when Angel and I were talking, can you turn the heat off and the timer off? When Angel and I were talking about bar of soap, we had made marbled soap last and our white chocolate mousse recipe, and we'd done half of it in the red and half of it just the plain bar of soap, and she said, oh no, I wouldn't do the coloring again, that red gets all over my shower. And when she asked if I wanted a bar of soap, I asked her if she wanted a bar of soap, and she said, does it have oatmeal in it? And I said, yeah. She goes, no, I just like a plain bar of soap. So that's really a very personal thing. I love oatmeal and calendula in my soap. My favorite bar of soap is that white chocolate mousse with calendula and oatmeal in it, and it's my sunshine bar of soap. I make it all the time. That's probably what I'll make this time. I love it, but not everyone loves that. So you gotta think about what kind of exfoliant you want, if any. Exfoliant could be lavender buds or oatmeal or something as hard as cornmeal. You could use poppy seeds or coffee grounds. I mean, there's so many options depending on the strength you want in that exfoliant or the softness you want in your bar of soap. You can add fragrances. You can use a fragrance oil. It's not my favorite. I would prefer you use essential oils because it really does work better for your bar of soap. And it doesn't have some of the harmful ingredients that can affect especially sensitive individuals, especially if you're thinking of a gift. You don't have to have a really expensive essential oil, just a good high quality one would be good. But again, you don't have to scent anything. 7 teaspoons is about a 35 milliliter bottle of essential oils, so just keep that in mind. You can get some 4-ounce bottles of, say, peppermint or lavender. Those ones are pretty hard to screw up when it comes to essential oils. There are lots of other ones that I wouldn't dare buy from anywhere but Young Living, because that's my preference on the company I've chosen to trust. But lavender and peppermint are really easy to make, and so a lot of companies can make it fairly simply without making a mess of it. So exfoliants, scents, and again, herbs, anything that you want to add character to the soap. Lavender buds, rose petals, calendula flowers. Just sometimes the simple soap is the best soap, but I always love adding some nice things that give that bar of soaps a feel and a character. I know I really believe in creativity, and that creativity doesn't have to mean that you have to paint paintings, but that you can be creative in so many ways, and soap can be one of those creative expressions. So think about how you want your bar of soap to feel. Have those things on hand. You don't want to be in the middle of your soap making process and go, oh yeah, I was going to put lavender in and now I don't have it and my soap is ruined, right? So make sure you have the things you want for your soap on hand.